question. Innovation has gone where no one has gone before, and I'm about to ask that question the Chief Medical Officer of BOB Technology, Professor Arik Eisenkraft. Hi, Professor Eisenkraft, are you with us?
Hi, Zohar. Thank you.
Well, before I ask you about the innovation behind BOB, can you elaborate a bit just about how common is hypertension in the Western world?
Oh, it is quite common. It is regarded as one of the main reasons for morbidity and mortality. It is called the silent killer. You don't really feel that. I mean, those who do feel that, probably it's already quite advanced. And the idea or the effort is to prevent it and to detect it as soon as possible in order to reduce the disease.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now what is BioBit?
So in BioBit, we've developed and finalized an end-to-end solution that allows remote patient monitoring. This means that wherever someone is now walking around at home or outside or in the hospital, you can monitor him and get quite a lot of vitals by using our system. The system includes several sensors in several configurations. We have a patch like the one I'm holding here, small and simple. I'm actually wearing one right now, and afterwards I will share my vitals with you. We also have a wristwatch configuration. So basically, the person being monitored is not really aware that he's monitored at all. He doesn't feel anything, it doesn't bother him, but the data is automatically and continuously collected and sent through a cloud-based solution to the healthcare provider.
Mm-hmm. Is it intrusive, like, for example, the diabetes sensors?
No, it is not. It is an optical technology, so it's not intrusive. It's very simple to use, very intuitive. Only one button to press and to activate the sensor. And as I mentioned before, automatically everything is transmitted in real time, and you have 15 different vitals that are being monitored continuously. And the healthcare providers also gets an alert. So we don't expect now physicians and nurses to sit in front of thousands of screens. No, the idea is to reduce the burden, not to increase that. And so they get the alert. We also have an early warning score that allows them an advanced alert that will tell them when someone is now deteriorating.
Mm-hmm. So actually, we know that in Israel, and I think that in the US as well, when you get to the doctor, usually he or she doesn't have a lot of time to analyze your condition. So with that amount of data that you mentioned, so you're actually reducing the amount in data, and does it actually save time for the doctors or for the caregivers?
Well, two things. It really allows them more time to do other things, but actually the amount of data is increased. You have much more data now. And just to give you an example, using our sensors, you now collect the blood pressure without a cuff, but also the pulse and the breathing rate and saturation and stroke volume and cardiac output. So you get a lot of cardiopulmonary parameters that so far were not really available, definitely not in an ambulatory patient. Usually you get that using devices in the ICU, the intensive care unit. And now using this technology, non-invasive wearable technology without any cables attached to the patient, you can get all of that.
Right, so just to make sure I understand correctly, I know that in intensive care, you have patients with tons of cables on them. Yeah. And I remember I was hospitalized once and blood pressure was taken with this inflating the pump.
Yeah.
And basically what you're saying, that all of this is including in this tiny patch that you showed us. Is that correct?
Exactly. We call that the spaghetti syndrome. You know, when you have someone with so many cables and half of the time you simply arrange them. So no more. You have one simple patch attached, simple but sophisticated, attached to the patient, and
Yeah.
everything
Well, that's
everything
the
is.
innovation. That's what I'm talking about. That's the Israeli innovation.
Yeah, exactly. And not only the physician can look at the vitals, or the nurse, of course, but everything could be integrated into the electronic medical record. So you don't have to write anything, you don't have to click anything. Everything is automatically introduced into the system.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you're a medical doctor yourself, so I won't tell you my opinion on the handwriting of doctors. But let's talk a little bit about the availability. I see that you're laughing. It's okay. Is it covered in any way by insurance companies in the United States?
So
Or is it the
actually,
next step? Is that's where you're going?
so we are going there, but actually there are already several codes in place that allows reimbursement, especially when you talk about remote patient monitoring, rehabilitation, and these kind of issues. So again, this is really exciting because we're talking about the last couple of years. Before that, there was hardly nothing there. So now definitely it becomes more attractive, more available, and we see more and more places open to use it, not only in hospitals but also in home care facilities or skilled nursing facilities and so on. And of course, we are talking more and more also about home hospitalizations or different services that until now, to get them, you had to go to the clinic. And now, just imagine that the delivery guy gives you this patch to your home, you attach it, you click it, and that's it. After 24 to 48 hours, you can either discard it or send it back to the clinic, but you don't have to do anything else, and your physician gets all of the data.
Wow, amazing. Is it available in Israel?
Well, yeah, definitely. I mean, it is available in Israel. And actually, you know, we were preparing to move forward with the US market and Europe. And then came COVID-19, you know, and it caught us actually prepared because the Ministry of Health here in Israel recommended the hospitals to use our system. And within a few weeks, more than 20 different isolation units all over the country were already using our system. The installation and the deployment is relatively simple, and they got vitals of several hundreds of patients, some of them in severe conditions, helping physicians and nurses to reduce direct contact with patients from one hand, but on the other hand, they got a lot of vitals that were not available so far out of the intensive care unit. And they got some early alerts when something happened, and they actually used the system not only for monitoring, but also as an important decision support tool in terms of the decision on ventilating patients and so on.
Wow, so that's actually great news. First of all, for the patients that were able to get proper care, and for Biobit for getting the attention, and I assume the amount of data from new patients and new conditions that probably allow you to get the better every day. Is that correct?
That's true. Just imagine, I'm now showing you how these are my vitals right now. You see, so just imagine for every patient like that, you get these vitals in real time, and everything is transmitted to the healthcare providers. And so you can really monitor them, get all the data, but also go backwards and analyze the trends, understand exactly what happened. If something is going wrong, you will get an early notification about that. So we really see that as a game changer in the field of monitoring. I mean, many people are talking about remote patient monitoring, we now have the tool to provide that. And, relevant to the US, we already have FDA clearance, so we are ready and prepared to go into the market in the US.
Are you the only patch manufacturer with the ability to measure blood pressure that is FDA approved?
Yes, we are the only company so far that got the clearance for non-invasive cuffless blood pressure. In other words, using a patch, using only our optical technology. There are several other companies with different patches, but so far we are the first to have such a diverse and a large amount of different vital signs all in one small patch.
Wow, it's just amazing. I'm speechless. I have one question though. We're in the era of Internet of Things, and you mentioned the remote patient monitoring, and you suggested, but you didn't elaborate too much, but I assume that you are building some kind of a database that will allow you to make better suggestions or better monitoring later on. Can you elaborate a little bit about what's going on the AI side of the product?
So as I mentioned before, this is a whole system. It's not only the sensors, it's also the data that we gather. And important to say, the data is gathered anonymously, so we have no identifiers of the patients themselves. That's very important. It's only the healthcare providers that pairs a name to the device. But we do have the data, and since it's cloud-based, it's endless. You can store there huge amounts of data, and it's quite amazing to see what you can get from the data. Understandings about diurnal changes, changes between day and night, the efficacy of drugs, and whether the treatment you give is really helpful, and understanding that some drugs may have other characteristics and capabilities that you weren't aware of before. And definitely part of our use cases is not only with the healthcare providers and patients, but also with drug companies and pharma companies, because we see that now, instead of conducting studies that will take years and years to gather the data, you can now do that in several weeks and months because of the measurement rate and the diversity of vitals. So we really think that this could be also a game changer with pharma companies, not only in hospitals. And we see that also relevant for first responders. So just imagine an ambulance arrives to the scene, puts a patch on the patient, and from that moment on, the data is transmitted not only to the paramedic, but also to the emergency department staff, so they know in advance the condition of the patient. They know if they have to open a cath lab or a trauma room. The data is already being assessed, and they know exactly the state of the patient, and from data gathered from other patients, they will also get the recommendations, automatic recommendations, what would be the best treatment. So again,
that sounds like science fiction, but I've heard you had some experience with the IDF with regards to that. Is that correct?
Yes, they are interested, like other security forces, they are interested in these capabilities, both to monitor subjects during training, to make sure that they are not dehydrated and so on. And of course, medical corps, they are interested in getting a robust remote patient monitoring system that will allow monitoring casualties on scene, but also during transportation, whether on land or by air. And again, at the same time, the medical facilities will already get the vitals and understand what is going to arrive in the next several minutes.
Wow. And I haven't mentioned it, but you're 100% Israeli located, right? You're in Petah Tikva, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We are now
So
slowly.
all we've been talking for I don't know, 15 minutes, everything is 100% Israeli innovation. Is that correct?
That's correct, but please do remember we have a lot of collaborators all over the world, and without this help, you cannot move forward.
Of
So yeah,
course.
the innovation is from Israel, but we have a lot of good people all over the world, enthusiastic just like us, helping us to move forward the idea, the device, the platform, with the hope of helping everyone.
Well, I assume that you've traveled along in many places, maybe not at this period of time, but I'm sure you've seen a lot of innovation in other places, medical devices, etc. How is Israeli innovation different in comparison to other places in the world, if at all?
Well, I think we are not afraid to fail. I think that's the most basic thing. Uh, Once you fail, and you always fail, you learn fast, very fast, how to improve, how to do it differently, how to achieve your goal. I think we have a good understanding of the gaps and the needs. There's so many emergencies around us and in Israel itself. So it really, you have to be alert, you have to be innovative, you have to be practical. So I'm always saying, when working with the US, no one in the US will go from A to B before A is complete. In Israel, we run fast. We don't
Yeah.
have patience to complete A. We go and understand what is happening already in B and C, but then we don't do it alone. We get together, we learn from the Americans about the A that we missed, but they also get some understanding about the B and C that we already saw. I think that by these kind of collaborations, you get the best product and the best results. So it is Israel innovation, but we are looking for collaborations all over the world.
Oh. Yeah, well, I've worked a lot in the semiconductor business, but I've worked a lot with the United States companies, and it's very accurate. I think it's a very interesting understanding what you're saying, and probably general to Israel and to the United States.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering, what are the next steps for you for BioBit? You started to mention, but the new horizons and new places where you might go. Is there anything else that you haven't mentioned that is a good next step for BioBit?
So we are interested, of course, in collaborating with some health centers in the US to show the capabilities to move into the US, not only stay in Israel, but definitely have a representation also in the US. We're looking mainly in hospitals, home care centers, but we are aware and working strongly to move also into the home hospitalization scene. We think that we have a lot to offer without compromising the security and the safety of the patients. And we are always looking at adding new vitals into the large array we already have. So we're talking about cardiorespiratory. There are some other things we plan to provide in the near future. We think that some of the laboratory tests conducted today by prick tests, we think that some at least won't be necessary in the near future using our technology, and we're putting a lot of effort on that. Of course, in parallel, we work closely with regulators, including the FDA, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward mainly on prediction, on using the data to provide physicians and healthcare care providers wherever they are with more important insights, with the aim to prevent disease, not only treat it and monitor the patients, but avoiding in advance of getting there.
Mm-hmm. So some kind of a early detection of the signals
Exactly.
before a condition actually develops.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Professor Arik Eisenkraft, Chief Medical Officer of BioBee Technologies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. Thanks.